This episode contains descriptions of acts of violence against children and female genitalia, so take good care as you listen.
More than 230 million women and girls today have experienced female genital mutilation, or FGM.
This is from a video by the World Health Organization.
There are different types of FGM, which can involve removing part or all of the external...
These educational videos are part of the wider End FGM global campaign.
In FGM, they cut off the external part of the clitoris, which would be equivalent to cutting off the entire head of the male penis.
FGM continues to be a global issue.
Let's all work together to end FGM, protect girls, and improve their health.
From RTE Investigates and RTE Documentary on One, this is First Conviction. I'm Ruth Nega. Episode 4, Verdict. The couple in this story, Sayeed and Halawa, are the first and only people to go on trial in Ireland on charges of committing FGM, punishable by up to 14 years in jail. They say they're totally innocent, and eventually people will listen to them. But over the coming week, they'll struggle to get their message through to anyone.
Morning, Mr. Costello.
Good morning, Judge.
Thursday, the 21st of November, 2019, was day 2 of their landmark trial, and it got off to a shaky start.
I'm told there's a difficulty with an interpreter.
Okay.
Again, all court scenes are reenacted in this episode using actors.
My registrar has informed me that there was a road traffic accident and that one of the interpreters was involved in the accident.
The African interpreter in the car accident was due in court to help Halawa. Reporter Pam Freyer from our investigative team can explain what happened next.
Once the court was made aware of the interpreter issue, they adjourned. The jury went out to the jury room as the legal teams figured out a solution, which they came up with pretty quickly.
Okay, so the information we have is that there won't be an interpreter available today.
Very good, Judge. I can just say that putting their best heads together, my client is happy to go ahead. Obviously, it's not optimal, but if we just take it slowly between her husband and the other interpreter, she's not going to stand on her rights on this day.
The jury were then called back into the room, and producer Tim Desmond talks us through the next few hours of the trial.
So day 2 saw a number of Gardaí giving evidence. Because Halawa had no interpreter, all evidence was being translated from English into French for Sayeed, who then translated it into his wife's African language. That frustrated things, as you can hear when a forensic scientist took the stand.
I work in the DNA section of Forensic Science Ireland as a scientist, and my job there is to look for blood and exhibits to look for blood patterns.
Just slow down. Sorry.
Excuse me, sorry?
Not at all.
Yes.
Not at all.
The forensic scientist will later tell the court he could not find any trace of blood on the toy that Sayeed and Halawa say injured their daughter Aisha. He did find Aisha's blood in the apartment, though, under an area of carpet.
Sayeed and Halawa never contested any of this. They say they cleaned the toy before they brought it into the hospital shortly after Aisha was admitted back in 2016. And they say they also showed Gardaí exactly where Aisha had bled in their home.
As the morning progressed, and with only one interpreter present, it became clear things couldn't continue, and day 2 would come to an early end, as Judge Sheehan explained.
So I'm going to obviously accede to Mr. Costello's request that we wait till we have the interpreter present. That will aid the speed at which we travel.
When day 3 of the trial opened, Sayeed's defence barrister addressed the court. This was a day of legal argument, without the jury.
The prosecution's essential witness, as they called her, was an FGM expert called Dr. Deborah T. Hodes. And she had prepared various reports for the DPP and the court, including one that focused on Halawa's country of origin, which her defence counsel, Patrick Gageby, didn't want the jury to hear.
But there is a very large amount of material about FGM in general, about where it is to be found, where it is to be clustered, in a sense...
Judge Elma Sheehan listened to both sides of legal argument around what's legally known as pedigree, essentially Halawa and Sayeed's backgrounds. The court adjourned later that day, allowing Judge Sheehan time to consider the matter.
Sayeed and Halawa returned home to their children for the weekend. By Monday morning, day 4 of the trial, a new interpreter was in court for Halawa, and Judge Sheehan had made her decision on Friday's legal argument.
In relation to the issue regarding cultural reasons why FGM occur, I've listened to the arguments and am persuaded by the defence that the prejudicial effect of that evidence would outweigh its probative
This was a
value.
significant moment for Sayeed and Halawa, in that it gave them hope they could get justice.
On that basis, any reference to the cultural background, historical significance, is hereby excluded.
With that issue resolved, their jury returns to the courtroom, and the Garda who led this investigation from the outset takes the stand.
The next witness is now, Inspector, but formerly Detective Sergeant Danny Kelly.
Junior counsel for the prosecution, Mr. Byrne, begins by asking Detective Inspector Kelly how he first became involved in the case.
That was in response to a call from the hospital.
Yes, I think you were aware that had attended as a patient at the hospital on the 16th of September?
That's correct, yes.
So the meeting that you attended with Dr. Sinead Harty and Dr. Paran, that was on the 22nd of September, and arising from that meeting, you then came to the Criminal Courts of Justice and you obtained a warrant. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Mr. Byrne continues examining Detective Inspector Kelly, including asking him where Gardaí found the toy they seized from Sayeed and Halawa's home, the one they've always said caused the injury.
It was beside the radiator in the kitchen.
I wonder, would you mind just holding up the photograph, please, and indicating? I think you're putting your finger at the bottom left hand.
Mr. Byrne continues to question Inspector Kelly, as well as reading out excerpts of interviews Sayeed gave to Gardaí at the time of his arrest.
Question. Do you agree with it, with FGM? Answer, no, I'm fighting it.
And I do everything to save girls.
What is your wife's view on FGM?
She is from the generation that is fighting it as well.
Earlier you described how FGM is prohibited. If it wasn't prohibited, would you support it being carried out?
No.
If it wasn't illegal, would you support FGM?
No. I am aware of the consequences on the human being in their life afterwards.
After going through Sayeed's statements to Gardaí, the court adjourns for lunch. And when they resume, Halawa's Garda interviews about her daughter Aisha are read to the jury.
What did the hospital say about her injury?
A doctor, I cannot remember his name, he told us it looked like a knife, and he said she had 3 damages. 3 names, actually. Pelvic, I don't know the other name, but my husband knows.
How did that make you feel?
Very sad, and I was crying.
As Halawa hears her own words, she finds it upsetting and breaks down in the court.
There's some concern in respect of Miss Judge. I'm not sure. Perhaps an appropriate time for a 5-minute break, Judge.
When the trial resumes, junior counsel for the prosecution continues to read some of Halawa's Garda interview after her arrest in December 2016. This is when the jury first become aware that Halawa herself was a victim of FGM in her country of birth.
Would you consider yourself a victim of female genital mutilation?
Yes. I am more a victim as it happened to me at a very young age. I was around 8 years old. I was living with my grandmother. I was not informed of what was going to happen. There were a lot of women in the house as if it was a party. I was called up by my grandmother to come. I was asked to sit down. A lady sat on my back and 2 other ladies held my legs. It was as if I was sitting on my legs and leaning backwards, and these 3 women held me in this position. A lady from the tribe carried out the genital mutilation on me. I was sitting on a rock.
What equipment did she use?
She used a blade.
What type of FGM was carried out on you?
I don't know the different types, but it involved the cutting and stitching.
Would you know a lot about FGM?
I don't know much, but it was performed on me, performed on us at a young age.
Why was it performed on you?
I don't know. It was just done on me.
The court continues to hear excerpts from Halawa's interview with Gardaí.
Did you ever discuss FGM with your husband?
No.
Did your husband discuss FGM with you?
No.
Are you a practicing Muslim?
Yeah.
What are your religious beliefs in relation to FGM?
I'm a practicing Muslim, but I don't read Islam in depth. I only know to pray.
What is the purpose of FGM?
It's done at a relatively young age, so you don't have a choice. I never questioned it as I was young, and the person who did it is now dead.
Both Halawa and her husband Sayeed are sitting in the dock. They have no idea what kind of impact their Garda interviews are having on the jury.
Explain to us how part of clitoris is missing.
I can't tell you how, what's missing, or what is there before. I can assure you that what has happened or had been done to me was not performed on my daughter. I can assure you that.
Do you disagree with all the experts?
Yeah. What happened to me did not happen to her.
At no stage did Gardaí ever enter any evidence of someone else being involved in causing Aisha's injury. Yet the state's case was that someone besides Sayeed and Halawa had carried out the act of FGM on their daughter.
When day 4 of the trial comes to an end, Judge Sheehan speaks to the jury.
And just before you go, can I stress to you the importance, members of the jury, of not discussing this case with anybody. And in addition to that, under no circumstances should anybody carry out their own research in relation to the matter. You've taken an oath to decide this matter in relation to what you hear in this courtroom, and this courtroom alone.
The following day, day 5, is the most important day of the trial, because today, 2 key witnesses take the stand: the FGM expert for the prosecution and Sayeed himself.
Day 5 begins with Detective Inspector Kelly being cross-examined, followed by the jury being shown a 12-minute-long video.
Can you all see it, members of the jury? There? Are you able to?
Nothing on the screen.
Nothing on the screen yet.
Pam and Tim again.
According to the trial transcripts, this 12 minutes of CCTV showed Aisha and her dad in the hospital waiting room directly after they checked into the hospital. The CCTV shows Aisha acting exactly as you'd expect any 21-month-old to act, climbing around the chairs, smiling at the other kids, and Detective Inspector Kelly confirms the time of the video.
And that, just for the sake of clarity, is the CCTV footage taken at approximately 12 midday on the 16th of September 2016.
It is indeed, yes.
While the hospital consultants in Crumlin had a lot of paediatric expertise, they did not have experience in recognising or diagnosing FGM, particularly in young children. That's why when Aisha presented with her injury, hospital staff reached out to the expert in the UK.
That FGM expert, Dr. Hodes, was based in London, so Crumlin hospital staff sent the reports and examination videos of Aisha's injury to Dr. Hodes for her expert opinion.
The prosecution barrister described Dr. Hodes as perhaps the essential prosecution witness. Lots of photographs and still images of Aisha's injury taken during the examinations of her were shown to the jury, with Dr. Hodes explaining what was in them.
And from that still, this is the still taken from the DVD of the 19th of September 2016, can you tell whether or not the glands and or the body of the clitoris are present from that image?
No. It appears that they're not there because you would see something a little bit sticking out, if you like.
Okay.
It's not quite a pea, but it is like a little protrusion.
Dr. Hode's evidence becomes pretty descriptive when talking about the videos taken of Aisha's injury and her vaginal area.
The catheter was still in place. The labia minora, which are the little lips, were present and normal. The labia majora, which are the big lips, were present and normal.
After going through all of her findings, the prosecuting barrister brings Dr. Hodes to the final page of her report.
Specifically in relation to whether or not your observations are or are not consistent with FGM, what are your findings and what's your opinion?
My opinion, the findings are consistent with FGM.
Yes, and having looked at the toy and having been told that explanation, were you able to form any opinion with regard to that explanation?
Yes, the explanation does not fit with the clinical findings of the injury.
This is an important point in the case. The way in which Sayeed and Halawa said Aisha got injured by falling on a toy All the medical witnesses, including Dr. Hodes, tell the jury that didn't seem plausible.
When you say it does not fit, what do you mean by that?
It's not possible that falling backwards onto this toy would cause that degree of damage.
A key point Defence Counsel Mr. Gageby raised with Dr. Hodes was about what other signs could indicate FGM might have occurred. This was the first time the jury began to hear some doubt about whether FGM ever took place.
And if it's FGM, perhaps requiring or necessitating sedation of the child for it to be done, or the child held down, correct?
When FGM is carried out,
yes,
there are various ways of restraining the child.
True.
One is sedation, one is holding, could be both.
But in Aisha's case, there were no signs of sedation or restraint. When Dr. Hodes finishes giving evidence, the court adjourns, and after lunch, Sayeed takes the stand. This is the moment he and Halawa have waited for, to make their truth publicly known, and for this ordeal to finally be over.
You have to remember that there were 3 languages being used in the courtroom: English, French, and an African language. All the legal teams and witnesses were using English, the only language the jury understood. Sayeed was using French, and Halawa, her native African language, and they each had interpreters to translate through everything that was being said in English.
Before questioning begins, Sayeed is asked about his ability to use English.
So, if you pull into the mic and bring the mic towards the interpreter and yourself.
First of all, would you I'm going to ask you to explain to the jury whether or not you have any English, or if you have any English, how good or bad it is.
I know a little bit English. But in this stress condition and suffering, I cannot express everything I can say.
Sayeed was about to give his testimony in French, so the process was that Sayeed would be asked something in English. It would be translated into French by his interpreter, and Sayeed would listen to the French interpretation. He would answer to his interpreter in French, and the interpreter would translate Sayeed's response into English for the court to hear.
It isn't long before this leads to, some complications.
English into French.
But you're sure it was the toy that you say she fell on?
French back into English.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was standing on that toy.
English into French.
Pardon?
French back into English.
She was standing on that toy.
English into French.
Standing or sitting?
French back into English.
No, she was up on the toy.
English into French.
She was standing on the toy.
French back into English.
No, she was standing. She was standing and was just crying, screaming.
What you're hearing here, what the jury heard, is Sayeed's testimony getting lost in translation. The interpreter simply does not have a sufficient level of French to translate exactly what is being asked of Sayeed, nor understand exactly what Sayeed is saying in order to translate it back to the court, word for word, which is what should be happening.
English into French.
Are you saying, when you turned back around, are you telling us that she was standing on the toy?
French back into English.
Yes, she was already up. She was screaming.
For Sayeed and Halawa, this is a critical part of their story and their defence. They always said Aisha injured herself by falling on a toy. But here in court, because of interpretation issues, Sayeed simply cannot get an accurate account of what happened through to the jury.
English into French.
Okay, 2 different questions. Was she standing up or sitting down?
French back into English.
She was standing.
English into French.
Second question. Was she standing on the toy or not?
French back into English.
I didn't understand that. She was putting her feet or...
English into French.
What don't you understand? I'm asking you if when you turned around and saw her crying, was she standing on the toy or not?
French back into English.
I don't understand. She was up and it was on top of the toy.
English into French.
At this point, one of the barristers for the defence intervenes.
Judge, I just don't like interrupting, but the word, as I understand it, and maybe there's a different translation, it means over.
We have an interpreter.
I know, I'm aware of that.
Well, we've had another word introduced to the cross-examination now, so let's deal with that as well. So, we have standing, sitting, and over.
English into French.
I want you to describe, because we weren't there, a picture of what you see when you turn around in response to your child crying.
French back into English.
She was standing.
Then the interpreter himself interrupts proceedings and speaks to the judge.
Sorry, you know the French is quite difficult between, I don't know if she can express that between on top of that or beside or what he's saying.
Sayeed knows this isn't good for him. He can feel it.
There was a difficulty with the translation. I was assisted by a French translator who was not good. It's the court who provide them, and we take what the court provides. We are not able financially to pay for our own independent translator. It is in their hands.
Sayeed also knows that 14 years of his life could be spent in prison if he's found guilty. As his evidence progresses, even the judge tries to help out with the translation issues.
Just 1 second. Could you just tell Mr. Costello where his feet were when you turned around? Where they were?
French back into English.
She was not on top of the toy.
English into French.
They were on the ground.
French back into English.
Yes, it was in the kitchen.
English into French.
On the floor, on the ground.
French back into English.
On the floor, in the kitchen.
Almost all of Sayeed's evidence is affected by interpretation issues.
I took the stand to tell my story so that our children and grandchildren would know in the future that I tried my best to explain what happened. The jury didn't hear what I was expressing. Maybe they were thinking I'm lying, I'm escaping the question, I'm not answering it properly. That he got the opportunity to tell us what happened and he didn't want to answer the questions properly. I was deeply sad and did not have hope for justice.
When Sayeed eventually finishes, it marks the end of day 5. The following day, day 6, is the day the prosecution and defence make their closing arguments to the jury.
Sayeed and Halawa were each charged with 2 offences. Count 1 was that they were involved in an act of female genital mutilation against their daughter, Aisha. And count 2 was a child cruelty charge. The jury could convict both of them, could acquit both of them, could acquit one of them and convict one of them.
The prosecution relied on medical evidence for the most part, with all medical witnesses outlining that in their views, FGM did occur. But the defence put it to the jury that if FGM was carried out on Aisha, it could only happen by force. And if so, why didn't Aisha show any signs of distress or of being sedated or restrained when she was brought to the hospital? Defence counsel Patrick Gageby.
Go back to that CCTV and ask yourself, looking at that child as she's up on the chair and then moving down, and you'll see how her father moved down and back so she couldn't fall back. Is there anything to suggest that that child is or was sedated? That is first-class evidence, ladies and gentlemen, inconsistent with sedation. That, ladies and gentlemen, therefore, I want to suggest to you, indicated no restraint and no sedation. There is no evidence to support that at all.
Defence counsel also informs the jury that just because Sayeed and Halawa's version of events might seem unlikely, that's not enough to prove that FGM did actually happen.
Thursday, 28th of November 2019, is the 7th and final day of this trial. A day Halawa and Sayeed would make history. The morning begins with Judge Sheehan speaking to the jury about the law in this case, the first trial of its kind in Irish history. The jury retires to consider their verdicts at 10:44 a.m. Just over 4 hours later, at 2:51 p.m, the jury returns to the court with their unanimous verdicts.
Mr. Foreman, please answer yes or no. Have you reached a verdict on any count upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Have you recorded your verdict on the issue paper?
Yes.
have you signed the issue paper?
Yes.
You say the accused, Sayeed, is guilty on count number 1. Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
You say the accused, Halawa, is guilty on count number 1. Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
You say the accused, Sayeed, is guilty on count number 2.
The same for count 2. Both Sayeed and Halawa are found guilty on all charges.
As soon as I hear guilty, I know what it means. And you cannot imagine, that's the worst thing in my life. And I remember I couldn't stand. I was holding the chair, saying what they said. To hear guilty, guilty, 2 times guilty.
And when they grabbed me, brought me down, they took everything, phones, whatever, car keys, everything. I have to give them to my solicitor. I cannot talk.
Sayeed and Halawa were totally unprepared. They never thought this could happen. They hadn't even said goodbye to their children or packed an overnight bag.
After that, I don't know. As soon as the jury found us guilty, we went to prison. We never went back home.
And I was feeling not guilty to my children, but guilty to my wife, to say I can't protect you. All the hope you put on my shoulder had collapsed. But this was bigger than me.
We've heard that they have 3 young children at home, one of whom is still being breastfed, and those were matters that were raised after their conviction when Gardaí
Sayeed and
objected to
Halawa
bail
were
for the
refused bail, deemed potential flight risks. They wouldn't see each other for another month until they'd return to court for sentencing. And if they thought this nightmare was anywhere near an end, the worst was yet to come.
We went to the prison, and they were calling me names. Some of them were touching me straight away, saying Al-Qaeda. Some were saying black bitch. Some were saying child killer. Some saying snip snip.
First Conviction is narrated by me, Ruth Naga.
The series is written and produced by me, Tim Desmond.
And me, Liam O'Brien, working together with the RTE Investigates team.
Including me, reporter Pam Frere.
And me, producer-director Philip Gallagher.
The music is composed by me, Mel Mercier, and performed with Carl Nesbitt, Paul O'Donnell, Niwel Tumbu, Clara Sanabras and the RTE Concert Orchestra, conducted by Gavin Maloney.
Sayeed's words are voiced by Steve Hartland.
And Halawa's words are voiced by Isosa Ighodaro.
Legal advice is from Deirdre Ann Kelly and Eleanor Blaheen.
And sound design is by me, Kieran Cullen.
If you've been affected by any issues raised in this episode, please visit rte.ie/helplines. Until next time, thanks for listening.